Hey everyone, welcome to Talk Ralph.
We all lie to ourselves about job interviews. We really do.
Oh, absolutely. All the time.
Like, we convince ourselves that the evaluation, the actual performance part, only begins the exact second we sit down in that chair, across from the hiring manager.
Right. When they ask that very first question,
Exactly. We think everything before that moment is just, well, logistics.
which is a really dangerous misconception. I mean, if you are waiting until you are physically in the hot seat to start projecting competence, you have already lost invaluable ground.
Yeah. And that brings us to the mission of today's deep dive.
Yeah.
We are exploring this absolutely fascinating corporate training script. It's specifically designed to teach professional English for high-stakes job interviews, and it uses these incredibly grounded, realistic role-play scenarios.
Right.
But, whether you are actively job hunting or prepping for a massive client meeting, or you're just someone who loves understanding the invisible mechanics of human interaction.
Yeah.
The material we're looking at today is an absolute gold mine. We're going to deconstruct the exact phrasing, the subtle psychological framing, and the strategic tactics needed to walk into any room and command it.
Taking you from the very first phone call to the final handshake.
Exactly. Okay, let's unpack this, because what struck me immediately in these transcripts is how much heavy lifting is done by just a few meticulously chosen words before you even set foot in the building.
Well, it's a masterclass in subtle signaling. What we're unpacking today isn't about, memorizing a rigid vocabulary list so you can sound like some polite robot.
Right. Nobody wants that.
No, definitely not. It's about understanding the underlying psychology of language. Why do certain phrases subconsciously signal maturity and high status to an employer while others signal insecurity?
So let's start at what the training material identifies as the true beginning. The invisible interview.
Yes, the invisible interview.
This happens days before you ever put on a suit. Usually, it's just a phone call to sort out the schedule. I looked at the examples provided, and most of us would probably call a receptionist and say something casual, like, hey, I'm just calling to check if my interview is still happening,
Right.
which feels completely normal, right? But the script corrects this immediately. It's just a very specific pivot. Instead, you say, I'm calling to confirm my interview appointment.
It is a microscopic shift in vocabulary, but it is a massive shift in power dynamics.
Really? Massive.
Oh, absolutely. Think about the psychological posture of checking if it's still happening. It's passive. It's slightly insecure. It implies you are bracing for rejection or a cancellation. You are placing yourself entirely at their mercy.
Yeah. You're basically asking for permission to show up.
Precisely.
Yeah.
But when you say you are calling to confirm an appointment, you are using the language of a busy professional managing a tightly packed calendar.
Oh, I like that.
Right. You are subtly communicating that your time is also valuable. It instantly establishes a peer-to-peer dynamic rather than, a subordinate hoping for a favor.
That makes a lot of sense. You're setting the tone before they even hear your name. And I noticed this exact same attention to detail when the candidate asks for directions to the office.
Yes, the directions example is great.
The material stresses using the formal could you instead of can you. So it's, could you tell me where exactly I should go? Instead of, can you tell me? Is there really a functional difference there?
Well, absolutely. I mean, can you is literally an inquiry about physical or mental ability.
Like, are you physically able to tell me?
Exactly. Can you give me directions? Well, yes, I am capable of speaking words. But could you is a conditional, polite request.
Ah, I see.
In professional English, softening a demand with could shows a really high level of situational awareness. It demonstrates respect for the other person's boundaries and workflow.
Okay, but the script also points out that professional English isn't a monolith, right? Like, you have to read the region you're in.
That is a crucial point.
Yeah, because if the receptionist gives you those directions, a great response in British English is, that's brilliant, thank you. But if you try that in a corporate office in Chicago, it might sound a bit, I don't know, eccentric.
Yeah, a little out of place.
Right. In American English, you'd lean toward, that's perfect, or that's great.
Which is just a great reminder that effective communication is always about matching the frequency of your audience.
So we've nailed the phone call. Fast forward a few days, you arrive at the building, you walk up to the receptionist, and the material maps out this interaction beautifully.
It really does.
You don't just say, I'm here for an interview. You state your name, the exact time, and the specific person. Like, I have an interview with Mrs. Johnson at 10 o'clock.
Very precise.
And as they lead you to the room, you're using polite markers like after you. But there was one hyper-specific detail in this lobby sequence that I just found completely fascinating.
The glass of water.
The glass of water. Yes. The receptionist asks if you'd like a glass of water, and the instruction is, always, always take the water.
It is one of the most practical pieces of tactical advice you can get.
I look at it like a strategic timeout button in a video game.
Huh.
Like, it gives you a prop. If you get hit with a devastatingly tough question later in the room, you have this built-in physical excuse to reach out, take a slow sip, and just buy your brain 3 seconds of processing time.
Right, without looking like a deer in the headlights, that cognitive pacing is crucial.
But wait, I want to challenge the exact phrasing the training script recommends here.
Okay.
Because when accepting the water, it suggests saying, yes, please, that would be lovely. Honestly, that feels a bit flourished. Almost theatrical? I mean, does it really matter if I say that? Versus just a standard, yes, thank you.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to look at what the hiring manager is actually testing before you enter the room.
If you enjoyed this, give the video a like, share it with a friend, and don't forget to subscribe for more English tips.
You are going to be on your absolute best behavior during the formal interrogation. But how do you treat the support staff? How do you accept a mundane, small courtesy?
Oh, I see.
Interviewers use these preliminary moments to assess your social English.
So the receptionist is essentially a proxy for a client.
Exactly. They are projecting your behavior in the lobby onto how you will interact with their most important vendors, or, how you'll handle a high-maintenance customer.
Wow.
Using a slightly elevated gracious phrase like, that would be lovely, establishes a baseline of warmth and polish. That early politeness isn't just about being nice. It's a critical component of the competency test.
Okay, so the invisible interview is over. We've passed the lobby test, we have our strategic glass of water in hand, and the hiring manager comes out.
The main event.
We give a firm handshake using a strong phrase like, it's a pleasure to meet you, rather than a generic, nice to meet you. We walk into the boardroom, we sit down, and the real interrogation begins.
This is the threshold where, historically, candidates just let their adrenaline take over, and they start rambling.
And the script tackles this head-on by prioritizing structure over panic.
Yes.
So the first hurdle is always the exact same. Tell me about yourself. And sitting there, the internal monologue is usually sheer panic. Like, do I talk about my hometown, my college roommate, that time I backpacked through Europe?
People assume it's an invitation to recite their biography. It's not.
Right. The training material provides a ruthless 4-part formula to kill the ramble. Who you are, what you studied, your relevant experience, and why you are sitting in that chair right now, period.
Clean and concise.
It explicitly warns against bringing up childhood or unrelated hobbies. But the real magic is how it instructs you to end the answer. You transition into the present moment by saying, I'm really excited to bring everything I've learned into a full-time role here.
The brilliance of that specific phrase is how it bridges the gap between your past and their future. Most candidates read their resume aloud like it's a Wikipedia page of their own life. But the harsh truth is, the interviewer doesn't care about your past for its own sake.
Right, they have a business to run.
Exactly. They only care about what your past means for their quarterly goals. By explicitly stating you want to bring your learnings into this role, you force them to visualize your past experience solving their current problems.
Man, that's smart. So you've set the stage. The next classic hurdle is, what are your greatest strengths?
Ah, yes.
The advice here is that 3 is the magic number. Not 1, which sounds thin, and not a laundry list of 10, which just sounds arrogant.
Nobody wants to hear 10 strings.
Exactly. But more importantly, you can't just throw out cheap adjectives. You can't just say, I'm highly organized.
Yeah.
You have to tether it to reality. The example given is, I plan ahead, I meet deadlines, and I make sure nothing falls through the cracks.
Because anyone can claim an adjective. I mean, I can sit here and tell you I'm an astronaut. It doesn't make it true. Yeah. When you attach a tangible, observable behavior to the trait like making sure nothing falls through the cracks, it suddenly becomes believable. It proves you understand what being organized actually looks like in practice.
And if they ask about an area where you lack experience, the script offers this incredibly slick reframing tool. You don't apologize. You say, I don't see gaps in my knowledge as problems. I see them as opportunities.
Which is textbook cognitive reframing.
Yeah.
You acknowledge the reality of the gap, so you maintain your credibility, but you categorize it under a positive trait. Curiosity and a hunger for professional growth.
Which brings us to the most dreaded question in the corporate world. What is your greatest weakness?
We all hate this one.
We really do. The instinct is to dodge it completely with a humble brag, like, oh, I just care too much, or I'm too much of a perfectionist.
Which every hiring manager sees right through. It's frankly insulting to their intelligence.
Training material is uncompromising on this. You have to give a real weakness. If you struggle with delegating, say it. If you get bogged down in details, admit it.
Yes.
But here's the critical pivot. You do not just drop a negative trait on the table and leave it there. You immediately follow it with the fix.
The action plan.
Right. The exact phrasing recommended is, I've been very aware of this and I've been working on it. And then you explain how. For example, I struggle with perfectionism slowing me down, so I've been aware of it. And I've started setting hard personal time limits for my initial drafts.
It is a beautifully constructed moment of vulnerability.
Really?
Yes. Self-awareness is one of the rarest commodities in the workforce. By structuring your answer this way, you are telling the employer, yes, I am a work in progress, but I'm the project manager of my own progress.
Oh, I love that. The project manager of my own progress.
You aren't asking them to fix you. You're showing them you already know how to manage yourself.
Okay, so we then move to proving your investment. The question is, why do you want to work here? Now, obviously, you have to do your research. The materials suggests dropping a specific reference to a recent product launch or, a news item from the last quarter. But there's a recommended closing line for this answer that I thought was just a knockout.
What was it?
I don't want just any job. I want this job.
Wow. It's incredibly decisive. It flatters the corporate ego.
Right. I instantly thought of the dating world. Nobody wants to sit across a table from someone who says, I just really want a relationship right now. Anyone will do.
No, definitely not.
They want to hear, I want a relationship with you. Companies want to feel chosen, not like they're just the 50th application you blindly submitted on a Tuesday night.
Exactly. It projects supreme confidence. You are telling them your presence in that room is intentional.
Now we get to the heavy lifting. Behavioral questions. These are the ones that usually start with, tell me about a time you... The script makes it clear that these exist because past behavior is the best predictor of future performance. If you want to know how someone handles a crisis, you ask them about their last crisis. And to answer these, the material strictly enforces the STAR method.
Situation, task, action, result.
Right. So if asked about a difficult client, you don't just ramble, you give the situation. The client's shipment was delayed. The task, I needed to retain their business. The action, I called them immediately. And result, we offered a discount and they renewed their contract. It's a chronological map.
It's very clean.
But the script also highlights dropping in very specific corporate vocabulary during the option phase. For example, saying, I was completely transparent with the client about the delay.
Transparent is a massive buzzword, but it carries real weight. It signals integrity and accountability, especially in high-stress situations.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me, though, and I want your take on this. If I'm a candidate and I am sitting there rigidly adhering to the STAR method, making sure I offer exactly 3 strengths, and carefully deploying pre-planned buzzwords like transparent, doesn't that risk making me sound incredibly robotic?
I could see why you think that.
Like, if I'm that heavily rehearsed, don't I lose my humanity and just sound like I'm reading a script?
What's fascinating here is that the psychological reality is the exact opposite. Having a rigid structure actually frees you up to be more human.
Right, how so?
Think about the cognitive load of a high-pressure interview. When you're hit with a complex question like, tell me about your biggest failure, if you don't have a structural framework, your brain is trying to do too many things at once.
Oh, yeah.
It's trying to remember the actual events of the story, it's trying to monitor the interviewer's facial expressions, and it's desperately trying to figure out how to land the plane and finish the sentence without sounding foolish.
Yeah, that sounds like a nightmare.
That cognitive overload is what makes candidates stammer, break eye contact, and physically tense up.
You're essentially trying to build the bridge while you're walking on it.
Precisely. But if you have the STAR framework deeply internalized, the scaffolding is already built. Your brain doesn't have to invent a narrative structure on the fly. You know exactly where the story starts and exactly how it ends.
Right.
Because you aren't internally panicking about the structure, your delivery naturally softens. Your body language loosens. You can actually make warm eye contact. The structure doesn't hide your personality. It dramatically reduces your anxiety so that your genuine personality has a safe space to emerge.
That is a phenomenal way to look at it. The scaffolding takes the weight, so you can just focus on connecting.
Exactly.
So, assuming we've used our scaffolding and navigated the interrogation perfectly, We reach the end of the meeting, and the interviewer asks the classic final question. Do you have any questions for us?
Which is the ultimate trap if you aren't prepared.
The script treats saying, no, I think everything's been covered, as a fatal error.
Oh,
It signals that you are just a passive participant. This final phase is about seizing control of the lasting impression. You need 2 or 3 prepared questions.
Always.
The first one suggested is about team culture. I really value collaboration. How would you describe the culture here?
Good.
The second is about defining success. What does success look like in this role after the first 6 months?
That second question is a brilliant psychological trick. It forces the hiring manager to visualize you already in the position, doing the work, and succeeding.
You're making them picture the win.
Exactly.
But then, the training script unveils question 3. They frame it as the absolute gold standard for closing an interview. You look at the manager and ask, is there anything about my application or the interview today that you'd like me to clarify or expand on?
That is arguably the most powerful tool in the entire curriculum.
So what does this all mean in practice? When I read that, it felt exactly like a defense lawyer making a closing argument to a jury.
How do you mean?
You are proactively trying to catch any lingering doubts before the jury leaves the room to deliberate. Because if they think you lack experience in a certain software and they just write it down on their clipboard, you're dead in the water. You'll get a rejection email next week.
Right.
But by asking this question, you force them to say that doubt out loud, which gives you one final chance to clear the air.
It goes even deeper than that, actually, particularly when you factor in cognitive bias.
Really?
If an interviewer silently assumes you lack a certain skill, confirmation bias dictates that they will subconsciously spend the rest of the interview looking for evidence to prove their assumption right. By forcing them to verbalize the concern, you break that silent loop of bias.
Wow. You're physically interrupting their assumption.
Exactly. And this raises an important question about the psychology of power dynamics in corporate settings.
Tell me more about that.
For the first 45 minutes of the interview, the power dynamic is inherently lopsided. They possess the job, you desire the job. They ask the questions, you provide the answers. It is a dominant-subordinate relationship.
Very true.
But by asking these specific high-level questions, especially that final clarifying question, you completely disrupt that traditional hierarchy.
You turn the tables.
You do. You shift the dynamic from a subordinate applicant hoping to be chosen to a confident, equal professional evaluating a mutual fit.
Wow.
You are signaling that you aren't begging for a job. You are a consultant evaluating a business problem that they need solved. And because human memory is deeply flawed, we heavily index on how an experience ends. You want that final lingering impression as you walk out the door to be one of peer-level confidence.
Which brings us full circle. Let's look at the incredible journey we've just taken through this material.
Quite a journey.
We started days before the meeting, confirming the appointment to establish a peer dynamic before even entering the building.
Yeah.
We used the lobby to demonstrate our baseline social English. And we weaponized a simple glass of water to buy ourselves cognitive processing time.
Yes.
When the pressure spiked, we relied on the scaffolding of the STAR method and the rule of 3 to prevent panic. We reframed our genuine weaknesses as active, managed opportunities for growth.
Right.
And finally, we deployed the golden question to force unspoken doubts into the light, shifting the power dynamic and exiting the room not as a subordinate, but as an equal.
It really is a comprehensive toolkit for human interaction.
And for you listening right now, whether you have an interview tomorrow or you're just navigating office politics, the biggest takeaway is that you don't need to memorize a script.
No, not at all.
This isn't about perfectly reciting the phrase, yes, please, that would be lovely. It's about understanding the mechanics beneath those phrases. When you understand exactly why a structured answer projects competence and how a specific question shifts a power dynamic, you can walk into any high-stakes professional situation feeling fundamentally equipped and firmly in control. You have built the scaffolding, now you just get to perform.
Which leaves us with one final fascinating thing to ponder.
What's that?
We've spent this entire time analyzing how these precise framing tools, like the STAR method, actively reframing our flaws and asking clarifying questions, work flawlessly to project competence and de-escalate tension in a corporate boardroom.
Right.
But imagine the profound impact of utilizing these exact same tactics in our daily lives.
Oh, wow.
How might actively verbalizing the steps you are taking to fix your flaws during a heated family conflict, or asking that golden clarifying question during an everyday negotiation, completely transform the way the world responds to you. Because, human psychology doesn't change just because you've left the office.
If you enjoyed this, give the video a like, share it with a friend, and don't forget to subscribe for more English tips.